I'm here to talk today about something that's very, I guess, important and near and dear to my situation and my heart, and that is the allegations that have been labeled against me for election bribery in the re-election of Alderman Michael Mcgee Jr. Mind you, I wasn't aware that I was going to be charged with this, maybe too, after being detained a few days in jail. But they picked me up, and of course, under the Patriot Act. But what I want to say to everybody under the sound of my voice is that if you pay attention to the works of Alderman Michael Mcgee Jr., subsequently all the leadership that has gone on, prior to him coming on the planet, and probably after he leaves the planet, will all have a common denominator in their, fight. First of all, most of the leadership who are arrested, especially when they're very conscious-minded brothers and they're starting to try to affect change, the first thing they're arrested for is some type of extortion, bribery, and these are, if you're on the streets and if they can't find nothing for you, they'll give you a disorderly conduct or resisting arrest. These are just little trick handles that the enemy uses to continue to navigate white supremacy. I, for one, do believe that white supremacy is at the root of everything that is wrong with this country. I don't have a problem with individual white people per se. I mean, I know it's an old cliche, but some of my friends are white. But we have a mutual respect, for each other as far as the individual is concerned. But what the problem is here, collectively, and as a group, there's a system in place that my people are at a disadvantage and have been and always will be. There's a difference when you start talking about institutionalized racism, and that needs to be explored. When we start talking about the situation with Alderman Mike Mcgee Jr., he was never placed in jail, although he was a controversial figure, although the masses of the status quo did not like Alderman Mcgee. For people in the hood, he was a champion. I've actually seen Mike Mcgee jump out of cars and put himself in harm's way to stop two sides from beefing, and then have that same energy direct them to the church house so we can have some type of mediation, so we won't have this constantly you shoot me, I'm gonna turn around and shoot you back, and it's gonna go on and on and on. This type of gang activity is what is pretty much self-destructing us in the black community. When you have politicians and leaders that are well aware of that and understands the dynamic that this type of madness has to be squelched, and the only thing that can squelch it is to give some education and pour a little love on it. And so once Mike understood that that was the component that was going to allow him to get his message through, he had all the young people following. I mean, this is the brother I would look and see him taking young men that were disenfranchised, young men that were totally wrote off, walking to City Hall and actually imagine themselves now having hope one day that they could be sitting in the seat. And I attribute that directly to Alderman Mike Mcgee and his love for the young people, and I can never take that away from him. In fact, I admire him for that. And I even told him, man, I said, I really admire you, because I ran a group home full of kids and a respite facility for children with problems, and I'm telling you, that was one of the most challenging things I've ever done. And here he is running around with and exposing young men after he make them put down their pistol, to persuade them to go to City Hall and let them know there's another way to make some money or make a living, and in fact that would make a difference in the community in a positive way. So those were the things that really basically endeared me to Alderman McGee, and that was one of the reasons that I decided to help him on the campaign. We had a lot of personal issues that we didn't agree with each other on. I certainly didn't agree with him on a personal level, stepping outside his marriage and creating a baby. But that's his business. He had a problem with my sexuality and what I choose to do in my bedroom, but that's my business. But in spite of it all, we were able to put our differences together, and we were able to have a common thread and know that solid, strong, independent thinking leadership was what was going to be good for a community that was just so disenfranchised and so devalued and so minimized and so left out of the scheme of things. He was like a beacon of hope. Matter of fact, he was like a Barack Obama for the 104th Ward and 6th District. That's how I will categorize Brother McGee. After seeing the retaliation from the district attorney's office, after the federal charges were brought against the officers that beat Frank Jude, because I totally believe that part of the John Doe investigation, part of his arrest, and subsequently everything afterwards was a direct effect from what happened with the Frank Jude trial. I really do believe that. I believe had Mike not got involved and so actively involved in trying to bring those officers to justice, he would still be down in City Hall like the rest of those sellouts that's down there, not giving a damn, not caring as long as they get a paycheck. These are the kind of people that we don't need. These are the kind of people that are a problem for us in the long run and in the scheme of things. We'll be right back. I'm back, and as I was saying, there were no other aldermen that stood up, and were appalled at the beating of Frank Jude Jr. and decided to not just be appalled and sit still, but to be appalled and take action, like my warrior brother Michael Mcgee Jr. So when I show this tag, I mean, I show it proudly. I give him his respect, because no man is perfect. We have all sinned and we've all fallen short, right? And I would never try to discredit David, who wrote the beautiful book in the Bible of Psalms, because he had 1,000 concubines. So why would I dismiss the good works of my brother McGee when I know this government has set up brothers like Marcus Garvey, Denmark Vesey, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, Martin Luther King, who was the king of love, and he got shot in the head. I know that every species has a natural enemy, and I do believe that. The cats know to when they see the dog coming. I mean, whether they learn to live in the house together is one thing, you know, and sometimes they do. They learn to live together, but, you know, and sometimes they even learn to play together. But when that dog comes up on it too fast, or the cat comes up, you know, walks past and the dog frightens him, the first thing that cat does, because that's his natural enemy. I think that most smaller fish that permeate the ocean know that the larger fish will eat them. And when they travel in schools, they try to go fast enough that when they see the enemy coming, they try to vamp. Okay? The mouse knows that the cat is out to get it. Whether you can teach them to cohabitate together, yes, but it comes with training and practice. But it's a natural enemy. So it is in the human kingdom. And so when the people who, I'm not talking about individual white people, and I want to make sure I keep making that statement clear. But there's a system in place that is set up to naturally